Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday. So, Katie, what a day, huh? If you're here in the state of Michigan, we've had a little mixture of snow, a little sun, definitely colder weather compared to last week. What is it like where you are?
Wow, I am finally in the South, and can I tell you that I kind of forgot that the rest of the world was battling snow. Middle America, no one thinks about them, and we don't think about you guys over there. I did see Buffalo. On Facebook, someone had posted that the snow. It was a picture of their back deck and their dog wanting to get out on the deck in the snow. When I first saw it, I'm like, "There's no way that is snow." Oh no, that is snow. Some
Yeah,
serious snow.
apparently 3 feet. So Katie and I are here. So we normally come together on a Friday at some point between 3, 4, or 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about performance. So I'm an NFL alum, executive coach by the name of Ziz, and my co-host is Katie E. I'm just, I like, so today we got to have some fun. So I was just thinking about Sheila E. So to be like, Katie E, explain who you are. Let's have a little dance move.
Dance move. I am the chief owl over at Owl Professional Coaching, Outstanding Women Leaders. We give a hoot about you and humor too. I'm all about laughing, learning, and inspiring you along your journey.
That's so awesome. That is so awesome for a lot of reasons. And just to kind of like jump into this. So it's like 4-3-40 on Friday. So I normally talk about 4 points. We go in a little light detail. The reason why it's called 4-3-40 on Fridays is because that's the measure of speed at the NFL, or actually even at the collegiate level and even at the high school level. So if you run a 4-3-40, that means you're in the top 1% of performers.
Which Ziz ran in his career.
And it was handheld, so it wasn't electronic. So who really knows how fast I ran?
Well, I only ran when the cops were chasing us out of the cornfields in Illinois. So there was nothing fast about my running. I just had to outrun someone else.
Well, the great thing about, when you're in the top 1% and when you're striving for the top 1% is which Katie and I are really, we work with individuals who want that for themselves. But more importantly, because of the world in which we live and what we see, we want that for you for a lot of reasons that we'll just kind of bounce around here a little. So going back to the snow analogy, actually, I shouldn't say it's an analogy because it's actually happening. If you are the Buffalo Bills and or the Cleveland Browns, you're
really sad and your season sucks. And you're stuck in some snow, I hear.
Well, if you're in Buffalo, yeah, you're definitely stuck in snow. I'm not sure about Cleveland, but I could tell you from the NFL standpoint, imagine moving a game from Buffalo to Detroit and the players are home and they're like, okay, tomorrow's a travel day. Depending on what team and where you're going to, your travel day gets thrown off. So these guys are like, what am I going to do? The uncertainty of this. They're certain there's snow, there's 3 feet and it's still coming down. And how are we going to get to the game? They don't know what to do. So it's like, how do you work with someone when there's uncertainty?
I love you, men. And what really ruffles your uncertainty feathers? I mean, I'm uncertain, most of my day on whether or not I'm going to be on time to places. So how I have managed to deal with uncertainty is just put it really low on my priority list. And I say that to be funny, but also, in our brain, we have 5 areas, our scarf that Ziz and I talk about, that uncertainty is the C in scarf. And I call it the value system of the brain because it really, the higher you're rated, uncertainty means that you really get triggered and that your brain is on the lookout for things and is craving that certainty. For me, certainty is one of the lowest ones on my scarf model. And I think that really probably speaks even to my just embracing change, As a high school teacher, I never knew if a bee was going to fly into the classroom, was a kid just going to be upset that day, what have you. So for me, uncertainty is feels good because it feels normal.
The funny thing about what you're saying, the irony is when you play a football game, there are elements that not in your control and a lot of uncertainty. And that's why practice is so important. When I just said practice, it made me think of Allen Iverson and his practice. We're talking about practice. But, it's interesting, though. It is really interesting because some individuals are like, oh, my God, I'm not certain about this. What am I going to do? So in your case and how you face it, it's liberating, it sounds like.
Well, so I can say that, but then there's some areas where I do like a little certainty. I like to know there's money in the bank and I'm certain where my next check's coming from, right? It's not like I'm immune to uncertainty, but I do think being able to pivot and create more certainty for myself is a skill set that I would say is a strong suit for me.
Okay, well, I'm not going to say anything more about certainty or uncertainty, but I will say it was really authentic of you to say that, which is our next word. It's our next word. And I will tell you, that's the one. Authenticity is really, really a value that's near and dear to me because I hate fake people. If you don't like me, cool, I can deal with that. But if you pretend to like me, that's a little bit more challenging. And I would much rather know if someone, and I'm being sarcastic in some respects, if someone doesn't like me, that's fine. I can deal with that. But if you're pretending, that really bugs me. That irks me. What about you?
What about me and authenticity? And what about me bugs me with authenticity?
No, not bugs you, just the word authenticity. What pops
Oh,
into your mind when you hear it?
yeah. Authenticity is an interesting word for me because we talk about it so much in corporate coaching scenarios. And I think a lot of times people are confusing authenticity with brutal honesty or authenticity as something that allows you to not have to have a filter. And when I think of authenticity, I think about who I'm being. So in coaching, we talk about being, doing, and having. So is my being authentic? So before we hopped on this call, this podcast, we were chatting about like, how do I respond to people in an authentic way if someone says something that's kind of offensive? Because this happens to me a lot. And the intention in that woman's moment, I mean, she had no idea the thing that she said, and she was not self-aware to that. But for me, authenticity oftentimes looks like just checking in with myself. Oh, that was a projection. Oh, that's not mine. Authenticity looks just like observing for me oftentimes. But and so I always just look at who am I being right now? And is that in line with the energy I'm feeling? And for me, that's the authenticity. It doesn't necessarily mean, that I don't have a filter or that I just say what I want to say. If I make jokes, that's definitely my authenticity coming out.
I love that. Who I'm being. I love that. And what else I like about that is just the flow of it. Just the flow of it. And there's aspects of awareness along that flow, because if someone asks you a question and you're like, you know what, if I said this to them, that's going to really shut them down. So I'm going to use my emotional intelligence and regulate myself and not say something that's going to shut that person down. For instance, the easy example, if the wife asks you a question about how does this look? And you, in your lapse moment, that decides to be really, really authentic, not in the definition of how Katie used it, in another way. And it gets you in a place of not using your emotional intelligence, so to speak.
Yeah, I think of authenticity as well as energy, and is my energy authentic? So to lie in that moment is not authentic. It's not in alignment with what you're feeling. I think something that Dan and I do really well for our communication, he will just say to me, it's the delivery for me. He says that to me so much. And that's great because I always can say, you know what, I should have led with gratitude here. You're 100% right. That was a missed opportunity on my part, but this still looks terrible. So I authentically told you how I felt, when I step into that energy of being, and I'll ask Dan, how does this outfit look? I think that Dan's authentic answer, which is he's a man, so his authentic answer is like, well, it's still either way. I don't want it to be on the floor at the end of the night, but he'll give some type of authentic answer.
That's a different podcast.
But his authentic answer of not liking something, might be around the lines of like, I don't know if that gives out. This is not how he would say it. I can't come up with his authentic words right now.
But you know what? I like the fact
he would say something in an energy way that would tell me like, I don't know if that really aligns with the vibe you want to have tonight, or like, yeah.
And that's what I love about it. It's the communication between the two of you that's authentic, and you know what is being said, and you understand what's being said and what's being delivered by Dan.
Yeah. And I always like to laugh too about like, sometimes it is, he could say it's the delivery, but a lot of times it's the receiver.
Ooh, well, you know what? Let's go there, because I do agree with you. And that's a big one. I think I shared with you, a couple of months ago, I wrote a letter to my younger self. And one of the points I made in the letter was, sometimes there will be individuals who will deliver information to you that you're like, whoa, where did that come from? Really? And it lands or it doesn't land based on how you receive it and how you react.
Yeah.
And, we were talking a little bit about sports. I mean, there are coaches that might yell and deliver that information in a way that's really loud, and some that are quiet, and some using their facial expressions. But how you receive it is really, really an integral part of accepting.
Yeah. And that goes back to the certainty you talked about earlier, and the scarf. When you're giving someone feedback, you want to put a scarf around them. And so for Dan, like, it didn't feel fair because he worked really hard on this particular example I'm giving. He put up Clark Griswold style, right? He put up all these Christmas lights. And the first time he did it, he just thought, oh, I'll just loop them around and like make a zigzag. Like, what are you doing? Do a straight line. And I know that I had said to him that, thank you so much for putting these up. I know I expressed some gratitude, but I didn't put a full scarf on him. I didn't give enough of that time for the reward to sink in before I then offered up the feedback. But when you go to the receiver, I think about that for myself too. So I have been, the first thing I do whenever I receive feedback is I always want to go internally. Okay, what's wrong with me? How do I fix me? I always take feedback as there's something that I need to change about myself. And so my younger version letter would talk about that. But from a human design perspective, like most of this information that I'm taking in, and this is what I always tell people as well about feedback is information about the person giving it.
Say that one more time. Let's make sure everyone heard that. Feedback is information from the person giving it.
Yeah, it gives you information about that person that's giving you the feedback. So when Dan says to me, it's the delivery for me.
Right.
That's information for me. I understand what he needs. It's not a reflection on me necessarily and how I delivered it. But I love that we have that tool I always talk about with couples and coaching of have your inside baseball language for couples.
Yes.
So that, and so that is not like a challenge for me to come back at him with something, right? It's your delivery for me is my chance I can laugh because I'm aware, he tells me that. And sometimes the delivery is I'm making a joke and he thinks I'm serious. And then he'll say, that's where I think that inside joke actually came for us. So do you have any inside baseball language that you use when you're telling your wife that her future wife that her dress
we do is ja. We just literally say ja. And that probably came from my earlier years being a parent with my children. There was some comedian, he would say hamburger when something would happen that was just ridiculous. So my children would do something that's just like, I'd be like hamburger, and then they would go like what? And then they go, oh, and then they would figure out like something they had done was like a little out of place, or they need to correct something that they were doing. So I use the ja ja ja, and that's our way of going, oh, hold on, you should know that one. And it works really, really well. I think also there's just our being, the energy that comes from certain signals. Because our nonverbal cues tend to show up before our verbal cues.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole separate communication thing that we can talk about at another time. But I love the fact that what we're talking about, I mean, we've hit creativity. I'm sorry, not creativity, uncertainty. I can't read my own writing. Uncertainty, authenticity. We were going to go with gratitude because of next week being Thanksgiving, but we'll save gratitude for the next one. But I would say just the communication style is probably number 3 with receiver. And probably let's go with gratitude, number 4, like, next week. I call it happy gratefulness week. I'm being culturally sensitive. And I'm laughing about it because there's so many things that are going to be said about that, but I think about it in a lot of different ways. So I just want to honor that. But I do look at it a little differently than I did when I'm in my younger years, based on things that I've read about that particular day, next Thursday. But to me, gratitude is all about so many things. If I wake up in the morning and I get to see another day, I'm like, yeah, I'm so happy about that. And a lot of times it's because, going back to the original premise, I get to get better each and every day. And sometimes that means reflecting upon some things I didn't do so well, or what can I do better? Listening to the feedback, seeing the blind spots. So that's my approach on gratitude.
Mm-hmm. I'm grateful that I am a 1%er every day, and that my phone is charged at 1%. And so I'm grateful for the opportunities to be a 1%er in that way. And in the probably the 1% of the population that's ever had crime happen to them here in Farragut, our Christmas lights were cut by our neighbor. So again, I'm grateful to be a 1%er. It's nice to be noticed. Gratitude for me, I saw something that made me think of you, actually. It was a woman talking about being, so she's like, I'm an energy. That's how she told the story. Imagine I'm this energy, and God comes and says to me, would you like a very, very, very short amount of time, like a blip amount of time, to go down on earth and experience every single emotion, every single facet of humanness? And she said, of course I would say yes to that. And so her gratitude comes from this place of getting to feel these emotions and to have this experience on earth, because it is such a blip amount of time. And says, I wake up the same way every day, which is tired, cranky, and looking for coffee. So I do not wake up every morning grateful that I get to have another cup of coffee. But I am very grateful every morning I wake up with the man that's handing me that cup of coffee.
I don't have anything else to add to that one. How do you top that? That's awesome. So just a quick recap, uncertainty and certainty, the flip side coin of that, authenticity. We talked about communication, and I think we'll delve more into that at some other point, about receiving feedback. And then, of course, gratitude. So we want to definitely wish everyone, however you say it, happy Thanksgiving, happy Gratefulness Week. However,
happy Turkey Day for those that eat turkey.
Yeah. Or as Madden would say it, I think it's Tafurku. I think that's how he said it. Half turkey, half I forget what it's called, but he essentially started a whole new business. There are people who actually deliver those Tadurkins, I think they're called.
Tadurkins, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty awesome of where opportunity lies. And that's really what I think we're both all about, is like, there might be something we said that you go, how did I hear that? How did I receive that? Maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe there's an opportunity there. And that's how I look at gratitude. There's so many things that we're doing well, and there's some things we're not doing so well as a human species. And that just, to me, is like an opportunity to get better at what it is that we're doing. So
absolutely. Yeah. I love the way that you said that. And I joked about the Christmas lights, but the gratitude really is not that we're the 1% of crime, but we got to meet a couple neighbors that we wouldn't have met knocking on doors. And, the one neighbor that we thought it was that didn't answer the door, even though we can see them sitting there. That's how we know they did it. See right into their house from my porch.
Oh my God, that is so
And
funny.
the camera that will now be there so that we can put up Christmas lights again, so that we can also be grateful for Christmas lights. But there was that gratitude, and Dan was so angry. I get it. He was the Clark Griswold that hung those lights several times. And 2 hours after finishing up, they came and cut them. So I'm grateful that we got to meet a couple new neighbors, and I'm grateful for any opportunity to be a 1%er.
Well, thanks, Katie. This is always super fun.
It is.
So, hey, before we leave, Wednesday, before Turkey Day, what are we going to do?
Yes, Wednesday before Turkey Day. Join us for some wit and wisdom around noon, I think. I don't know what we're doing for wit and wisdom. We're playing that by ear, but as you guys are cruising the car, you can catch this on the podcast. You can go to K to Z, Better Professional Development. You can listen to this on Podbean or on YouTube or Apple Podcast if you'd like to catch the replay or send it to a friend, and you can tune in as well. So Wit and Wisdom on Wednesday, we'll be talking a little bit more about authenticity in the veins of using some really cool assessment tools like human design to understand your authentic self.
Awesome. And then, of course, next Friday, which is Black Friday. And I'm proud to say I've never, ever participated in Black Friday, and I don't think I ever will.
I thought you were going to say that you always participate in Black Friday because you're Black. So every Friday is Black Friday for you.
Hey, I never told you that I consider myself the permanent tan man. I don't call myself Black. I'm the permanent tan man. Hey, as you can tell, we like to have fun. We like to talk about different things. We like to I especially, and actually Katie is more wittier than I, like to poke at things just to get you to think about things. So that's what we're all about.
You think I'm wittier than you?
You know what? Let's get out of the comparison. That's not the best way of me phrasing that. I would say there are times when your wit is just overwhelming.
Fair enough. All right, I'll soak that in. I will do it. I'll soak that in. I think our quirks are both quite there, but I'll take that.
Absolutely.
The Wittiness Award. Thank you so much for hosting us today, Ziz. I look forward to hosting you on Wednesday.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Have a great weekend, everyone.